So what were these guys planning on doing? What was their accelerate moment?
Well, per the siege culture, they like to do like guerrilla warfare tactics. So they're against the Charlottesville stuff, being in a group, picket signs, screaming racial slurs, all this stuff. They're against that. They're like, that's stupid. Number one, you're making yourself a target. You're not doing anything. It's more guerrilla warfare tactics where, let's say over here in Austin, power grid goes down. Over here, train gets derailed. Over here, water system's poisoned. Anything to create chaos and killing of anybody left. Anti-fash, non-whites, very anti-Semitic, very, like way more than, it kind of opened my eyes when I started getting into some of these neo-Nazis because for the most part, when I thought racism, I thought white against black, right? But these neo-Nazis groups I was in, man, they are anti-Semitic, man. They cannot stand Jews.
Wow.
It's like it's sickening if you listen to it. But again, they want that Hitler. They want Hitler back. I mean, some of these guys were like talking about concave Earth, hollow Earth. Hitler's still alive. He's in hollow Earth. He's with giant white men who are Anglo white with red hair and 15 plus foot tall. And I'm like, and I go, so where are these 15 foot tall white guys? And they're like, well, they're in Middle Earth with Hitler. They're waiting. And I go, for what? If we're going to
NBA contracts.
Yeah. Come on, man, let's do this. Let's take this thing down. And sometimes I'm just comical with them. You're like, hey, we're neo-Nazis. Yeah. We're going to get the ethno-state. Yeah. We're ready for the boogaloo. Yeah. We're building our kit. Yeah. Who's going to be Hitler? And everybody goes, ugh. Well, there's only be one, buddy. Are we going to fight it out right now? Who's going to win this thing? But what happened with the base is a lot of them were into the pagan, and I say this loosely. I have plenty of friends that are pagan, Satru, and they are great people. Love them.
What do you mean by pagan?
So there's different pantheons, but the most common one is Norse mythology. So basically it's basically the Marvel universe.
So they worship ancient
Odin,
Viking culture?
Yeah, Odin, Thor, whatever.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, man.
Like there's a church for that?
Well, I don't want to say a church per se, but yeah, they'll hold blot. A blot is, just think Viking kind of stuff. The ones that do it that are serious, they're upset that white supremacists have taken their stuff and used it. But if you look at Hitler was already looking into that Norse mythology too. He had looking for Thor's hammer or whatever, the Holy Grail, biblical, and all this stuff. But there's Christian identity, which is making a comeback in the white supremacy realm, not to be confused with Christianity. Christian identity is, if you can wrap your mind around this, a lot of them have it's the dual seed line belief. So they take the story of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, the serpent, and the fruit of the forbidden tree. They take that story and they say, okay, it's still the same, except the fruit of the forbidden tree is a sexual act with the serpent, who is a man of color, also known as Satan. And then when Satan sleeps with Eve, their offspring is Cain, and they are the mud race from then on. That's what they call them, mud race, non-white. Mud race from then on down. But the procreation from Adam and Eve is Abel, and that's the pure white race. That's just one of the many belief systems. So when you see, I know, right?
Yeah, I'm like shaking my head like, what the fuck?
What? How did you get that?
What are they using as like references? Like, how do they get this information?
So as far back as that I know, I'm sure it came out earlier, but there was the Aryan Nation, Reverend Butler, Red Ray Fair, and all that stuff, and they taught that. They taught the Christian identity. Church of Jesus Christ Christian. And they take that and twist it, as if Jesus is just a white guy.
And so did you physically meet with these guys
Mm-hmm.
and infiltrate their organization?
Yeah, some of those, yes. And the Christian identity was kind of in the clan belief that I was in for a short moment. But the pagan, just like I said, that the Christian identity takes the Bible and twists it, then the paganism is taking Norse mythology, or if you're an Egyptian pantheon or whatever, and they're twisting it toward their white supremacy. And that's not what paganism really is. If you know Again, I've got friends that do it. They're upset with white supremacists using their stuff. But then again, in the base, there was a guy who was an Asatru priest, and he led the first blot I ever attended, BLOT, which is kind of like the worship ceremony for pagans. I mean, we're down there with our shirts off, wiping blood on our chest, drinking mead as if we're Vikings, and then praying to our gods. And they would take wood, carved wood, and they would carve runes and like white supremacy symbols in it, and we would cut ourselves and bleed on the runes and then set that on fire and pray until the fire went out.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was
How
kind
many
of,
of these guys are out there in the world?
I don't know. I mean, there's academia and stuff that they're like, there's millions of white supremacists and Nazis are going to be on your doorstep tomorrow. I'm not going to say that.
Well, they want to call everything white supremacy, which is a real problem because there's actual white supremacy out there.
Yeah.
And when you call everything white supremacist,
Just somebody disagreeing or having a different belief system.
watching a video of a fucking crazy professor who was saying that marriage is white supremacist. It's the craziest video of all time. There's an undercover video where they interviewed this lady and they were asking her questions and she didn't know she was being recorded. She was a professor.
Yeah.
Like marriage is thin privilege, it's white supremacy, it's, male privilege, which leads to white supremacy and white privilege and like just a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense words that she was attaching to just people getting married.
Clearly she's not a Christ follower because if you follow the Bible,
Yeah.
it lays out what marriage is.
Yeah, well, she's definitely not. She's a kook.